popping, y'all? Last of Us, episode 6. I'm starting to get to that comfort zone, that little sweet spot where I don't need a notes, and I'm finally, I can do it without going overboard, without going into some other details. So I like the development. This is what I like to do. So I keep doing things until I get good at it, and then it gets better. So if you're with me since I started doing episode 1, you're a dope ass If you just not joining in right now, you're still dope. Because I'm going to continue. Alright, so we're going to talk about episode 6. There's a few things I want to touch on, and there's a few things that the show did different than the video game. First thing I want to touch, they give a reminder of the Henry and Sam situation. That was a big moment. That is very rare. Like I said in my last video, it's very rare that they capture the essence of a moment and make you feel exactly what they're going through, so it's like you're in that moment. So I'm glad that they start the episode off like that, and then it goes to it's like a reminder of what could happen. So actually, now that I think about it, that was the perfect way to start that episode, because how the episode progresses, smart. As I'm talking, I'm realizing. So we're gonna break this down piece by piece. So we go all the way to fast forward 3 months later. They're still trying to move the way west to find Tommy. The little couple in the woods, that was a little dope touch. That was dope. That didn't happen in the video game, so that was nice. I like how they fill in plot holes. Because the video game is just a load time, skips, boom, and you can go, because they gotta keep you engaged and enemies and all that stuff. So the fact that they don't have enemies in certain spots, they do a perfect thing and fill it in those little holes, and that just gives them a little more room to play around with and add their own type of story. But it has to go on with the story, and it's nice. So going to a little couple to find out where they at and find out where they're going. That was dope. Even the area where they went to, and they showed the dam and all that stuff, and that was in the game too, which was nice. And that's when you kind of it reiterates Ellie can't swim, so they didn't show that part. So they skipped that part. That was fine, because you had to do some crazy stuff. Yeah, in the game, you had to jump in the water. She had to jump on a pallet, and you had to swim her across the side. I'm glad they had to do all that. But before we get to that part where they was heading west to the River of Death, which is the dope. A real key moment, a real big moment happened. Joe not knowing what's going on over there, and they tell him what's happening at the River of Death. And he said, she was like, if your brother's over there, he most likely dead. It was like a rush of fear, adrenaline, and helplessness all attacked at once. So usually that reverts into a panic attack. So it was like he was panicking, and that's when your heart starts to slow down, and you just obviously your regular heartbeat. You're just not feeling yourself, and then you feel lightheaded. Most people pass out from a panic attack. It's like an overload. So you see that first rush, and Ellie notices, so she tries to like pull him back a little bit, but at the same time she's like, okay, bleed is a little bullshit excuse. So now we fast forward to the river. They go, and Ellie brings up a point, like maybe when they reach the dam, maybe this is what they was talking about. And on cue, everybody shows up. I forgot Tommy's wife's name. I'll probably write it on the screen. Or what was it, Maria or something like that? Something like that. In the game, she was white. In the show, she's black. So that threw me off. I'm like, wait a minute. Even though they usually when they show somebody a close up out of a whole crowd, that's low key the leader. Like, that's gonna be somebody that's gonna have a lot more dialogue than others. And so they showed her up, and I'm like, okay, so she must be the girl Tommy's married and pregnant. Okay, I can dig that. So once again, they're doing a little check, and she's infected. He's looking at her. She looks scared as hell, like really, really scared. And he's looking just as scared as her. And this is not the Joe that we all used to seeing. So you're starting to see the helplessness, like the human side of Joe, because that's actually that Sam and Henry interaction starting to affect him more than he thought, and he's starting to realize it. So it's starting to bring up old memories back from when he was with his daughter. So when the dog was approaching him, it was like, I honestly, I thought it was gonna be like, okay, let him, like, how's he gonna get out of the situation? I thought he was gonna actually try to defend her, but he just stood there. So it kind of like, it did more, it added more plot to the story. So I'm like, damn, this not like that really affected him. Like, Joe, you're not acting, you're not yourself. You're not yourself. So I did the dog in the plan for it. Even the music kind of had you in a suspense. You was like, damn, she's infected, but she's immune, but she's infected. So that kind of had me on the edge of my seat because that definitely didn't happen in the game. So I'm like, oh snap, what's about to happen? Eventually, I knew that was going to end up with Tommy at, but it just that like, damn, how is he going to get there? What, like, is the dog going to go near him? What's about to happen? So he's scared. They found out that it was just nothing, a dog. But she's not infected, obviously. He's just immune to it. So that was nice. Then we skip to the point where we meet Tommy. And as you can see, when Joe and Tommy hug, Ellie's face, it was like she noticed, and she like, it's like something like she noticed something's off with Joe. Like she just know, but she can't really put a finger on it. And then honestly, she's not. She used to it being just them two, and it seemed like Joe was like, it wasn't. It's hard to describe because in the video game, it's different, but he's capturing the exact moment from the video game, if that make any sense. Because in the video game, you can walk away from the character. The character can talk or whatever. You can choose to interact with Ellie or not. You can just walk away and do all that stuff. But in the show, it's like it wasn't as forced as it was in the beginning. Like how you can tell he's interested, but he's not. Now it's just like total avoidance. Like he was like literally avoiding everything about, like he couldn't accept Ellie. And there's a reason for that, which we're gonna get into in a minute. So they talking and everything, and he didn't even want to tell Tommy the truth. I was like, okay, because now this is where the stuff started to get a little different. In a video game, you walk around, you talk. Ellie goes to Marlene. She didn't feel safe because obviously she don't feel safe around her trainer. She just know Joe and her. She feels safe around Joe. Even when it was camping on a riverbed and she'd stand and watch. And Joe was like, that's when you really start to really notice it. Okay, maybe I skipped that part. When they was camping and Joe fell asleep and Ellie was standing watch. So him falling asleep, him finding out that his brother might be dead, it's all, and him not being able to save Ellie when there's feeling like that. It's like him not being able to save Ellie when all those dudes come around, ask him questions and threaten to kill him. All that ties into everything, to his decision that he was trying to make later on, which we are so approaching that. We are so close to that because there's a lot more. So in the video game, you walk around, you're talking to Tommy, you get into a gunfight with some people trying to take over the fortress. There's a couple infected, and then Tommy kind of like agrees to go, but then Joe tells him no. So that's way further than that. That's how that goes in that. And this one they did it kind of like way different. So the fact that they put her inside of a house right across from theirs, that was different. Marlene and her son being dead, and Sarah, and then she found out about Sarah. That was true. That's how she found out about Sarah. The movies, that was different. Even though they watched old movies, that was different. The part that really hits Joe and really sets him off was the part when him and Tommy was in a bar alone, and you could tell how he told Ellie, "You'll be all right," because Ellie was like, I don't feel safe," but Joe's like, "You'll be all right," but you can just tell. So part when they was in the bar, when Joe was trying to get Tommy to go with him to drop off Ellie, because he felt like he couldn't protect her, so he needed an extra set of eyes, because you know how he fell asleep and all that stuff, like this, that I can't protect her. I can't protect her all the time. And it's like helplessness. Especially when you can't protect somebody that you want to protect the most, and you don't understand why you want to protect them the most. So you try to look for reasons on why you want this person to be safe. And when you can't understand them yourself, you get in a state of confusion, and you start to make decisions and you start to make mistakes because you just can't understand everything that's going on. So you like, it's like a distraction, a huge distraction. So when they was talking in the bar, and I'm not gonna prolong that part a lot because we already know what happened. He basically told that nigga like, "Hey, Marlene, no, it wasn't Marlene. Marlene is the dead Firefly, whatever her damn name is." Looks feel kind of rude, but her day. So he tells her that his wife is pregnant, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll see what kind of father you'd be." And then he hung about, hit him in the gut when he said, "Just because your life stands still doesn't mean mine does. Mine has to." Basically talking about his death of Sarah when Sarah was killed, and you could tell it had affected Tommy because it was like, damn. But at the same time, they say when you're mad, you say what you really feel, but sometimes that's true, but then it's not true because it's just like, it's in the middle. It's in the middle because I know it's not even in the middle. I say this 85% of the time, it's true. The 15% is because your feelings is just hurt. And you just like, and it's just like a natural defense. You just got to say something. That's not how you feel. You just want to say something to hurt them equally. So I get that. And then he walks outside and he's seen, had another panic attack, and he sees his daughter, Sarah, which was kind of reflected in Ellie. Now we come down to the heart of the problems because now we start to understand why he almost had a panic attack when the dog was about to sniff her, when he heard about Tommy and all this other stuff when he fell asleep at the camp, because it's starting to feel like I can't protect nobody. And then not to mention Tommy asks about Tess. So yeah, so I can't protect nobody. Like I'm basically useless. So he's going to his lowest point. So he goes and he talked to Ellie. Did he go to talk to Ellie? I don't think he talked to Ellie yet. That's when Ellie and Tommy's wife was talking about, in the video game, she did the exact same thing. It was like almost like she was trying to drive a wedge between them because she don't trust Joe. But you don't even know Joe. You just heard stories. So unless you meet a person, you can't really judge him. So it was like she was judgmental, just like the game. So the character she hits on point. And then it cuts to them going to the movies, and it goes to Tommy and Joe starts to talk. Now this is important because it lets you know exactly what Joe was talking about. He said, and even though it was like in so few words, and Ellie heard just a couple of it, it was like really, really impactful because everything that I said up until now is exactly how Joe was feeling. He couldn't protect her. Same thing. Even that backstory about Tess, like all that stuff to connect. It was about him being helpless. Him not, it's just he hardened his heart in order to survive. So when he met Ellie, all that hardness that he worked on years, all that stuff, it softened up. He began to open this up. He began to care. Like even with Tess, he kind of cared, but he like, but with Ellie, it's different because she puts him in the mindset of his daughter, right? So it's different, and it hits him hard and open. And then how she's just like casual with him, and they spend so much time together. Naturally, they will grow on you, but it just hit harder because it's Ellie. It reminds him of his daughter. So he tells Tommy to like take care of her and all that stuff, and of course she hears it, and then they goes up in the room. That scene in the room was so nice, only because the way that they did it the way that it happened in the video game, it's exactly how it happened on the screen, and the way that Ellie projected herself, the way that she shoved him, the way that she talked, the way that she looked, everything was on point. Like when she talked about everybody left me except you, and I'm not Sarah and all that stuff. Like the tone she chose to use when she said, I'm not your daughter. I heard about Sarah, I'm not your daughter. The tone. And the tone she chose when she needed to raise her voice. When Joe was talking about leaving her. That tone, everything like I felt it. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She is like really acting right here. Even the tears and all that stuff, that shit was top notch, man. And then and a bit of something they did different. Instead of well, let me say this first. I'm moving too fast. Let me say this first. The way that Joe looked at her in the video game, you really couldn't see like Joe like you see the scene, but you really couldn't tell. But the way that Joe looked before he responded, when she said, "I'm not Sarah" and all that stuff, like the angle of his face that he chose, the body language, the way that the way that he spoke calmly but angrily, and at the same time with total control, and then a little bit of sympathy. It was so perfect. It couldn't have been any better than that. The way he's like, "You're right. You're not my daughter," and the way he chose to walk off, and all that stuff, and then how he broke down in the room. That's top-notch acting. This show is so good. I didn't expect this show to be this good. So after that part, instead of Ellie sitting in the room waiting on Tommy, she pushed him and all that stuff. Even though that was one of the best scenes of the show. Even the part with Joe, I'm sitting there smiling because I'm like, the acting is just, oh my god. So instead of her sitting in waiting for Tommy, sitting in the room waiting for Tommy, Ellie runs off in the video game. You go and chase her to another house, and then you end up talking to her and all that stuff, and you reaffirm that you're going to continue the journey with her and all that stuff, at least till you find the fireflies and all that stuff. But the way that they decided to do it on the show, I think it was way better, because in the game you fight other stuff and all that unnecessary stuff. It's just to keep you engaged, because you got to remember you're playing a video game. The way that she was just sitting there waiting, and Tommy, like she says, "Come in." Ellie is never that polite. She thought it was Joe. Then when she realized that it wasn't Joe, she didn't say nothing. Got up and walked out. Like, all right, let's go. And then she walks, and Joe was right there with the horse, still on the horse. I should have left 30 minutes ago. And then he come up with some lame ass excuse. So it's like he slept on it. Because after what she said, after the little encounter about everybody that she cared about left her or died except for him, and then it just hit him, like everything, like he just had to, like, it just, sometimes you need to calm down on everything. Sometimes you need to stop being afraid and start doing what's needed. He tried to give her the excuse, "Oh, Tess, I'm doing this for Tess." No, you're not doing this for Tess. It was like he reaffirmed that he's doing it for himself. He was growing attached to Ellie. So he goes and give her this bullshit excuse. "I thought it would be only right to give you a choice." She was like, "Nigga, hit the bag. Let's go." Are you kidding me? Forget about it. So that was dope. And then it was mostly for Ellie and himself, but partly for Tommy, because Tommy was about to have a baby. He wanted Tommy to go on that road. The part when they engaging and talking and all that stuff, like, and how she leaned on his, like, laid on his back, and you can see his body language is a lot better. How he was teaching her how to shoot, how they was talking, and us. The interaction is just so much better. It's like it's grown. Now it stopped from being, "I've got to get this girl, or I got to travel with him to get to this destination," to a dependence on each other. So it was like they needed that open and honesty to reach this level that they're at. So before we get to the part where they're being tested, when they go into the college, so in a video game it was different. In a video game, of course, you fighting and all that stuff. The monkeys was real. I wonder if they're gonna put something else in there. I'm not gonna say nothing about that, but I want there's something else that's supposed to happen. So you go in there and you see the list, which was crazy. You do that in a video game. You see the list and they talking, you look back on the list, and then you hear the noise. You do go upstairs, you see the map. You do see that. You hear people talking. So I was like, are they gonna put infected here, or are they gonna put people? The fact that they actually put bandits there, I was like, oh, this is so nice. And then the injury to Joe, I was like, oh my, what are we doing? This is gonna be great because now you're gonna see some crazy stuff. And then with the even how even how he falls off the horse and all that stuff. I like where they ended the last this last episode. It's gonna be top notch. Like the way that it's gonna go. Oh, I am so excited because the next I've seen the preview for the next episode. Next episode is a DLC Left Behind, so I'm not spoiling anything because they already said it in the beginning of the first episode. It's just not elaborating on what she told him on how she got infected. That's all it is. That's what the next episode is on, which is DLC to the story. But I like how the show doesn't focus on action. Like the dialogue is good, the acting is good, the scene setting is good. Like even every time they come to a new scene, even when it came to the college and all that stuff, nostalgia from the video game. Even with the monkeys, nostalgia from the video game. It's just like they have the blueprint. They don't need to mess it up. Like literally, they have it. So, and the fact that they got the actual crew from Naughty Dog helping them, I think it's really dope because it gives them a plot to follow. So as long as they follow now, I've talked to people that don't even know this is based on a video game, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is the best story ever." And then when I tell them, "Oh, that's a video game," and they're like, "What's a video game?" I'm like, "The show. It's literally the same name as the damn video game." And they're like, "What? This is a video game? Hell no!" So I show, and I'm like, "Wow, they did this and did that," and like they are on point. But like I was saying, they focus on a lot of good stuff. Good storytelling. It's really great storytelling. Like I always said that when I was playing Last of Us, I was like, this can be a dope ass movie. I'm glad they made it a show because the movie would have been too short. I'm glad they made it a show because they fucked up with Uncharted. Uncharted, they just thought they can just throw anybody in there and it'd be a hit. Uncharted, oh my god. It's gonna be a couple of years before y'all try that one again. Y'all had the wrong person playing. Like, Drake, let's stick to The Last of Us. I don't want to get started with Uncharted. So, the right amount of like, you don't even see any infected in this episode. You don't even see none of that, but you hear about it. You hear like they mention them. The fact that you don't see infected every episode, and the episode is every bit of appealing, and you still gaining more information because it's like we're watching it and we're watching them live through an actual pandemic. And then I think it kind of hits because we actually lived through a damn pandemic and we like comparing it to our pandemic. So it was like shit could have been a lot worse. Like it could have been like that, but I'm just saying the shows is dope. Like I thought they were gonna try to overpack it. Well, it gotta be infected every episode. It gotta be this. Gotta be some type of action. Gotta be the. They are doing this right, and it's only in episode 6. And episode 7 is the backstory. Joe panic attacks. Joe and Ellie's growth of relationship. Tommy's growth. Reassuring Ellie's confidence in Joe. The way that she says that she needs him at the end, and she can't do it without him. The way that she's like, yeah, she can't go nowhere. She don't know where she's going, but at the same time, it's a dependence on Joe. They depend on each other. The fact that when he got attacked and she's sitting to hold the gun, just waiting, but she was scared. You could tell she was scared. But at the same time, if it was for Joe, she would protect him. Now, we finna see. You see how Joe overcome his fear, how he friendly and talking to her and all that stuff, overcoming this fear of spelling Ellie. After this episode, we'll be going on our backstory. We got to see what the hell was gonna happen. Joe was stabbed. So the episode we're seeing Joe overcome his fear. Now it's time for Ellie. It's time. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Holla.